Hey everyone, Chuck Niemer here. For those who are just jumping in and doing these videos for the first time, what I'm doing here is I'm preparing for the exams myself as I record these. And I've been through the participant guides and read it and trying to wrap my head around things and organize things. I think I've gotten that part done, but the challenge I certainly face is because this is a new area to me, on some levels, I don't know what I don't know. So how do I go about learning it with more confidence? And excuse me, one of the things I've seen over the years is as I prepare to teach any of the classes for certification or any other supply chain classes, um, reading it out loud, talking out loud like this forces me to think about what I'm going to say, put things together in a logical way. Might be a way that you want to do too. So I'm doing this for exam prep, but I also want to share these with you if they help you in some way in your studying as well, supplementary wise. I'm not using ASCM material as far as the PowerPoints go, of course. But I'm also, this is an opinion piece as well. So this is certainly not the standard by any stretch of the imagination. So let's kind of jump into this next section. We're moving into section C here, where we talk about conceptualizing the future supply chain model. Specifically the section performing process and geographic mapping. So let me kind of cover some of the points and talk about some of those elements here. One of the first things that we talk about as a concept here is once we've selected which supply chain we're going to design first. And I say which one because if you go back into the resources and look at the writing of Gatorna and Ellis, they talk about the 5 different types of supply chains that you and I might have to have. And, it runs on the spectrum from low cost to differentiated in some ways. So we've got to figure out which one's most strategic for us to tackle first, which we talk about in other areas. Excuse me. So one of the first things we do is we create a geographic map and a process map. And the notes say this, it's the nodes, or the notes say this. We want to map out the nodes, the lengths. We want to do it for all customers, suppliers, clients, distribution centers, channel partners. And by looking at that, we may get some initial indications on we've got too few nodes, too many nodes. Nodes might not be in the best optimal location, could be the wrong ones, or could be in the wrong places. Then we're going to go into greater detail. And so we're going to create a geographic map zeroing in or zooming in more on specific areas. It should show at this second map the entire scope of operations of that segment of supply chain, where materials originate, what activities are done to transform them, where and to whom they are sent as well becomes important in that conversation out there. So at this point, then, we're creating a as-is map, if you want to call it, of that specific segment of the supply chain. We also create a process map, and this was new to me, was the concept of a thread map. Swim lane flowchart, certainly, separate columns for each supply chain mode. And the comment here identifies the processes each party performs using standard codes, shows both material and information flows as lines connecting the process. I had never seen that before. And so when a colleague of mine, as part of our study group, showed us one that she created, I thought it was a pretty cool thing because it didn't get into the detail of pick up this paper, move it over here, document this, sign this. It was level above that, but there was enough detail to see all the steps so that you could look at it and say, well, I do this step here, I give it to this next person in the swim lane, okay, and then they do something with it, but it never comes back into the process. How come there's no connection there? Would not see that necessarily on some of the more detailed flow charts because we're too down in the weeds, or the other end, we're at too high a level. So I would tell you that thread diagram certainly seems like something you and I should be taking advantage of and thinking of. But again, in this first step, what we're looking at here is the whole idea of geographic mapping and process mapping of segments of the supply chain.